Is
that
right?
If we seem like we're gonna be longer than an hour or longer than 30 minutes, we'll just stop at the 30-minute mark.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess we're looking into that camera, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I
The
was mainly
smallest camera.
I was mainly just gonna look at you the entire time,
okay.
or like the
Okay,
camera.
if we're speaking to the audience this way, but
Right.
T-shirt. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're
Round
recording.
2.
We're recording. Let's go.
Okay.
We are live.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Are you
Open-minded.
open-minded?
That's like the worst and also the best name
Ooh, it's triggering. It's very triggering.
for the podcast.
But here we are.
Yeah. Wow. We finally did it after like 2 hours, close to 2 hours of.
After like 6 months of talking about it too.
Yes. But honestly, I'm glad that we're doing it towards the end of the summer because man, I could not make the trip over here. Imagine if we did this last month. Yo.
Dear God. For reference, those wondering, if you don't know, this is my apartment. We're filming
in the famous TikTok house.
Yes, it doesn't look like it right now because we switched things around and there's hair on the floor. And I tried to, like, Sam came over and I was like, I'm not ready to host anyone.
It felt very lived in, very homely.
Yeah.
So I'm not, you know.
No one wants to hear that.
If you come to my place, you're gonna be like, oh, this guy. I don't want you to see how I live. Basically,
Really?
it's not.
Okay.
It's not like. So I'm more forgiving when I see like hair on the floor or dust. I'm like, it means you've lived.
You saw
here.
the dust too.
Anyways.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, Sam and I are both content creators here in Korea.
Yeah. Intro.
So I will give you the floor.
Oh, okay.
You go ahead first.
Hi guys, my name is Sam. I go by soljiki online. I'm an amateur dancer here out in Seoul, South Korea, and I make like memes and skits online. And now I'm doing a cool podcast with Annie Nova.
Yes. And I am Annie Nova.
Yes.
I make content about life in Korea as a foreigner, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean,
according to the TikTok comments, that's my whole personality.
Right.
Is life in Korea. But it's worked out so far, and I feel like I have some good takes sometimes.
I feel like we're kind of known for rocking the boat a little bit in terms of like, we don't glaze, Korea all the time. Like, oh, it's so amazing. Even though it is amazing, we love living in Korea, or at least I do.
I love it too.
Yeah. So, but we're not afraid to like talk about the more rough sides to Korea and what it's like living and interacting with Korean people. And yeah, so you messaged me being like, hey, I think we would be like a good podcast duo. Yeah.
I've been wanting to do it for so long, and I watched everyone else make one.
Right.
And then the podcast die off. And I'm like, oh, did I miss the boat on this? But here we are doing it. And I just think because we are very similar in terms of like the style of content of, loving Korea, but still being somewhat
real and honest about what really goes on here.
Yeah. So I thought, because we're both mainly active on TikTok, it's like a 1 to 2 minute, it's short form, and it would be nice to also talk about the topics that we talk about on our platforms in podcast long form version.
It's very
with someone else.
It's very hard to talk about or give our takes in such like a short format of like, oh, how do I explain all the nuances and all the details in like a 1 minute video? You can't do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's also obviously the fact that you're Korean American, so you have a unique viewpoint of Korea.
Right.
I'm Black. I don't know. Sometimes I get in trouble when I say that.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, there was one video that recently blew up, and I was like,
they're like, well, if you're not Black, then what did they say you were?
Depends who you ask. A lot of people say I'm white. Well, it's very bizarre.
Weird. Okay.
It was, what was it? I made a video where I said like a lot of white girls like think that they are the beauty standard in Korea, and I would get a lot of comments from like very bold white girls being like, oh, she's not considered attractive in Korea because she's not white. And I was like, oh, actually, yes, I'm not the beauty standard whether or not I'm considered attractive or not is very much down to like personal preference, depending on who's looking at me. But just because you're white doesn't mean that Koreans want to emulate you. They want to be white in skin tone, not like...
Right.
Yeah. And it ruffles some feathers. Actually, I just answered a comment right now from a white girl being like, well, you're not the beauty standard either. They don't want you either. And I'm like, but why do you take that as an attack? Me saying, oh, you're not the preference doesn't mean that I'm saying that I'm the preference. And that just shows like these people's mindsets. But it was that. And then I had a lot of, actually, unfortunately, like African Americans say like, well, you're not black either. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What?
But obviously like different countries have different
definitions for what.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm 50% black. I'm 25% white. But according to these people, because of that 25%, I must be.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of topics that we're going to be talking about.
Exactly.
Like we have like the more freedom and the more space to like go in depth with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay.
That was a very long explanation
very long
as to
intro.
why I said I'm black. Yeah.
Yeah, but we kind of go way back. I've known you for, I mean, at least 2 years before the whole pandemic. So I don't know how long.
Before I even moved to Korea, actually.
Really?
Yeah, which is insane.
That's right. Yes. You were here just like temporarily at that point,
I was just visiting. And I think, that's when I met Sam for the first time.
Yes.
Through a mutual friend.
We did a collab together. Yeah. Yeah. And like from the get-go, I really liked your vibe. You just seemed like a very like happy person and very well articulate.
Oh, thank you.
Articulated. And it was like,
and you seemed likewise.
Oh, thank you. and yeah, when you sent me that message, I was like, no, like totally. Like I think actually, I don't think I told you this, but when I was doing a podcast with my friend Noel, I wanted to get you on the show. I wanted to get you on the show as well. But for whatever reason, like schedule-wise, I don't think you were in the country at that time.
I'm always in and out.
Yeah, and so I was like, damn, it's a missed opportunity. And so when you sent me that message, I was like, Yeah. So here we are, full circle.
Here we are. The thing with Sam is like, you're sadly one of the longest men that I've known in Korea who has not said or done anything creepy or weird.
Yes, you did mention this before, and I'm like,
which is why I feel comfortable.
I know you mean that as a compliment, and I'm like, thank you.
It's the bare
also,
minimum.
It's like, I'm so sad because like I know tons of guys who are like super cool, but I don't know. I feel like it definitely in the influencer space, or I guess the influencer space, whatever you want to call it here, even like business people here have been so shady.
Yeah.
In a lot of really disgusting ways. And I'm glad that we actually have like a format now where we can talk a little bit more freely about that stuff. We can't be 100% like, we can't drop names.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, with the laws in Korea.
Right. You want to get into a little bit of detail with like how defamation laws work here?
So unfortunately, there's a thing in Korea. Defamation doesn't necessarily mean like you're lying and it's hurting your reputation. It can be the truth, and if it hurts your reputation, it's classed as defamation. So if Sam punched me in the face right now and I made a video about it, and I showed you like
video evidence.
I would now be getting sued and he would be the victim.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether or not something is true or not. It's all about, did this person that you talked about get any damages in like in terms of reputation, in terms of financials. So whenever we're talking about something on TikTok or on whatever, and we're like, oh, this person, that person did this thing. And they're like, well, why aren't you name dropping? You're just doing this for clout. It's like, no, we're trying to get the message out that you should be careful, but we're also protecting ourselves, right? Because, I mean, you're here on a visa that is like, someone you
that
told
needs
me
to be
earlier.
renewed so if you story of every immigrant ever in any country, but if you're basically at the mercy of the immigration officer.
Right.
They could be someone who's just like, I'm sorry, but I feel like a lot of people who working in immigration don't like immigration. So they're very harsh, and it could literally be a case of they look at your file, oh, they don't have a completely clean record, they've been sued, I don't want to give them a renewal for their visa. It could be something like, even if you didn't do anything wrong, it could even just be like a parking ticket. Depending on the officer who's in charge of your visa case, it can be just they're having a bad day.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of whoever is looking at your file. That's nuts. So you got to be extra careful whenever you're talking about things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I try to, and especially with my like K-pop story times on TikTok, which a lot of people know me for, they're always just like, oh my God, just say the name. And I'm like, no. Like, and then they always complain about, well, if you're not going to say the name, don't make a video. And I'm just like, but can't you just appreciate it for what it is, which is a K-pop idol that a lot of people know has done XYZ.
Right.
I can enjoy content without knowing who it's about.
Right. Like, we're not going to risk our livelihoods and reputation and you know, for you to get a little bit more juicier content. Like, no. Like, at the end of the day, we got to protect ourselves. But yeah, no, similarly, when I made a video about like, hey, you got to be careful, because I've only been in this like influencer space for like the past year. Yeah. And
I knew Sam before he blew up on TikTok, just saying.
and I've met so many, like, I don't know if I can, pedophiles and like abusive businessmen and like rapists, like straight on like rapists. And obviously I want to like get the message out there to be like, hey, you know, really be careful about who you follow. And I got so much like blowback, or not so much blowback, but I got some blowback from some people being like, you're just doing this for clout. Like, oh my God, like, why aren't you just dropping names? Like, who cares if you're going to get in trouble? It's like, well, no, I care if I get in trouble, you know. It's not a reasonable thing to ask us to just like drop names or even to give hints. Is not, if it leads to people finding out who they are, or like you said before, we were talking about this earlier, if they like drop their name in the comment, we can't respond to it. Otherwise,
even them just dropping the name can incriminate you, because you've created a space where you've given enough hints for people to recognize who it is and publicly putting the name. Like, that's what happened with our friend who introduced us. We're not friends with them anymore, but they like made a video about me, which wasn't like it none of it was true. They very much like convoluted. I mean, not even lies. It were just like out of context screenshots and like very out of context things. And people obviously were guessing that it was me, about me. And it was like, a lot of it was also like, some of the things that she discussed, which weren't true, were very much connected to like a lot of trauma that I went through within like the first 2 years of me living in Korea. So I was just like, you know, if I wanted to relive this trauma again, I could sue because I live in Korea, but I'm not going to do that, because I would rather just continue healing than rehash everything and then have to maybe even make like a public statement or anything like that.
Right.
But people were guessing. People were sending me like death threats.
Jesus.
Yeah, because like you know, people get invested in like their favorite influencers, and they're like, oh well, she said that she did her wrong, she was a bad friend, so I'm gonna tell her that I hope she dies of an incurable disease or something like that.
That's nice.
So, which is why like I started like social media as a teenager, so I definitely would have I would have used my platform to get back at ex-friends, but now that like my frontal cortex is fully developed, I know the impact. And like, I mean, this person was 30 years old when they made the video about me, but we all mature at different rates, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
But like I said, like if I wanted to, the second that they step foot into Korea, they would have been in legal trouble. And I'm just like, I don't want that hanging over my head if I ever like made a video about someone else and they had the opportunity like to just sue me out of the blue. Like years later, I would rather just cover my own ass and
just like move on from it.
Exactly. I mean, to this day I still get like comment, like yesterday.
Really?
Like I told you, I get comments.
Man. Well, I don't know if we can point that out because then people would know, right? So
but I have so many videos up.
Okay,
but like I got a comment of like someone being like, oh, what happened to you and so and I was just like, that's so weird. That's so weird that you still bring that up. Like I just honestly, I don't know that person anymore. We've not been friends for years.
I haven't spoken to
that person. So I just
say
I don't know her.
Yeah.
Him, her, them.
It.
Anyway.
So I mean, speaking again about these like defamation laws, I can understand why they're in place because like gossiping is such a cornerstone of like Korean culture. I can understand why you would want to have laws in place, but at the end of the day, I think it just kind of like hurts the voice of the victims. Like we can't openly talk about these things and tell you, hey, be careful about this person, don't hang out with this person, because you can literally just like be taken to court and then you will lose automatically. You will lose. There's no real defense that you can give. If you said this thing and this person suffered damages because of it, then you're guilty. There's
a small leeway of if you can prove that you said what you said is meant for the good of the public rather than getting back at a person. So that's how like the guy who came forward with the burning sun stuff was able to like not get sued for defamation.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Okay.
And similarly, actually, that the girl on TikTok whose husband stole her baby.
Yes. So this is one of the topics we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. She mentioned in her videos, if you
do we is it okay to name her?
I think so. I mean, it's best so people can find her, but quick rundown. She married her husband in Korea.
Do we want to say her name though? For like her TikTok name or whatever? Is that okay?
Courtney
Courtney the Enthusiast? I think. That's fine.
Courtney the Enthusiast, I believe.
So she was on TikTok. She came up on my FYP. Basically, this really terrible story of her husband like abusing her for, I want to say 6 months, maybe. I'm not getting the full picture, but I want to say like at least 6 months. Even before she gave birth to this child, their child, she was like getting beaten up. She was like verbally abused. There would be messages of her being like, of her husband saying things like, I'm just going to kill you. I'm just going to beat you up like until you pass away and stuff like that. And she's in trouble potentially because she's like outing him as this abuser.
Yeah.
And this story goes way deeper than this too.
Oh my God. Every day. I mean, she uploads something new every day. And every day I'm just like, how is this real life?
Yeah.
So her mother-in-law stole her baby from the police station. Her case has been mishandled. Yesterday I watched one of her videos where she said how like the reason why she couldn't get a restraining order was because the police officer who was in charge of her renewal of her restraining order was ignoring her calls and messages. And then when her lawyer called, he picked up straight away. And then when the lawyer was like, hey, what the hell? He was like, oh, I didn't get any of her messages. So because of that, her husband was able to file for a like counter restraining order, which meant that he was able to kick her out of her house.
That's crazy.
And she already has 2 kids from a previous relationship.
Right.
So she had to scramble and find a new place to live because out of spite, her husband was kicking her out.
Yeah, that whole story is crazy. There's so many details in there where things of like she tried to file an abuse case earlier or report a case of abuse, and the police officer at the scene was like, I just want to go home. I just want to clock out. Like, can you not do this today? Like, this woman comes to you for help that she's being beaten up, and you're like, how about tomorrow? You report this tomorrow. It's like, dude, have a heart.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like these cases, obviously it's not super common, but it's definitely
common enough.
It's common enough. And it's not one of those stories that you hear very often, especially on TikTok, because of these defamation laws. But she's just very much like scorched earth. Like, I'm just going to lay it all out there and see what happens.
Her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope she wins.
Yeah, for sure. I hope she gets her baby back.
Oh my God. Yeah. She said she has to wait at least another month.
Oof.
Till she might be reunited with her baby. But here's a little Korea hot take.
I'm sorry, right before we do this, it got cloudy all of a sudden, so I lost all my light.
No.
Okay. But yeah. So
here's a little hot take about Korea. It's obviously presented as very safe, same as Japan actually, very safe. You can walk around, which is true. Like, especially me as a woman, I can walk around at night. Back home, I would think twice. However, I will say, just from like, I've heard enough stories where women have been assaulted by men, and then when they go and report it, they have all the evidence. The police will actually try and make it go away.
Kind of bury it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So like this is my belief, a lot of cases, especially against women, get not officially registered. So I think artificially it gets put down.
Yeah.
So I knew this one girl, she took everything to the police, and the police was just like, hey, you know, like, how about you accept money from him and we make this all go away. You don't have to go to court. She was a foreigner, so she was about to go home. She was starting university, and they were offering her $8,000 from the guy that assaulted her.
Eesh.
So, you know, you either stay and fight and possibly lose thousands of dollars in legal fees, or you take the money, go home, heal, and use the money for something good. And she decided to take the money. So there's a guy walking around who did something like that to a woman, and nothing on his record.
Right. Yeah, that's always really sad to hear, really disappointing to hear. I do know other cases where like I was dating a girl for a time, and she lived in kind of a rough neighborhood. And then on her way home, she just got like rocked in the back of her head. She was walking down this like really dark alley, and then out of nowhere, she got punched in the back of the head. And like she called the police and everything, and they like made sure that she was okay, but like they didn't really help her at all in terms of like finding out who did it, you know, checking like, you know, what happened.
Yeah.
So, but she didn't seem surprised about it at all. She was like, okay, like police aren't really going to help me in that case. Or other cases where like I know friends that were stalked by their ex-boyfriend. Like really like I had this friend who was in Gangnam, and obviously like she was dating this guy for a little bit, and it got to a point where he was getting drunk way too often, and I'm not sure if like he actually hit her or whatever, but they broke it off, and then he started getting very scary, I guess. Very like she would come up to her office tel and like start banging at the door in the middle of the night, be like probably drunk out of his mind, just being like, let me in, I just want to talk to you. She would call the police would come, and you know they gotta like talk about what's going on, and the police officer talking to my friend was like, well, why don't you just meet him again, you know what's the issue? So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's really backwards. I really don't understand what is happening here in terms of like enforcement. I don't know. But it's not just one or two stories. These are not just one or two off stories. Pretty much every girl that I know here, both Korean and foreigner, have a story like this where...
Is it just like crimes against women, or is it like other...
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, because I can honestly imagine like someone steals something and the police tries and.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this here: if you are in trouble here, do you trust the police enough to like call them for help if you are ever in?
Who else? Who else?
I guess so. Yeah.
I think.
But like for the people watching who are like thinking about coming to Korea.
I mean, obviously, always. I think the bad stories about policemen always get highlighted versus like, for example, when my mom came to visit Korea, she got like really lost. She went into a police station. She was supposed to, she had an appointment at a skin clinic. They drove her around till they found the skin clinic. She didn't know the name. She didn't know the area. She just knew the logo. And they took her in the police car and drove her around.
She had a police escort to the skin clinic?
Literally.
Okay.
So like there's situations like that. Or like one time I went into a police station and I wanted to get like I wanted to get my like driver's license, I think. And I don't actually know. I think I needed to get a criminal background check for something. I think it was for a visa that I was applying for somewhere else.
Sure.
And I didn't know where to get it, so I just assumed I just walk into any police station to get that or like find out where I can get it. And I walk in and like 20 police officers like get up and walk towards me to help me. And like I know they looked bored as hell. I think they just wanted something to do, and they're like, "Oh, a foreigner, drama! Like let's help her." But yeah, I was just asking like, "How do I do this?"
Okay.
So there's that.
Right.
There's like horrible mishandlings of justice, and then there's like, okay, like you did a good job, well done. You did your job.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think whenever you are dealing with alcohol and whenever you're dealing with like anything more than just like, oh, hey, I lost my phone or hey, I'm lost, then you really need to have a lot more tact when it comes to dealing with the police here. I would never say, hey, don't trust the police. I still think that you should file like a police report if something if something happens to you. Yeah, but I don't think I can ever say like, oh yeah, the police will take care of you. I don't think that's something I can say with 100% confidence here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, through the lens of like crimes against women, unfortunately, I think a lot of police stations are still very untrained. I mean, this is true all over the world. Like up until very recently, like up until like 10, 15 years ago, like police officers in like the UK or US would ask women, what were you wearing? So this isn't even like a,
Yeah. It's not a new thing.
Yeah, what did you do
it's
for him to...
It's not a new concept, right?
Yeah, what did you do for him to... And I have heard that Korea is taking steps in... Is it good?
No, we're good.
Okay. I have heard about Korea taking steps in taking care of women, especially like having like a dedicated team for especially like victims of sexual assault.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like in the article, they said like a lot of the times these male older police officers don't even understand that they are re-traumatizing an SA victim, for example.
Right.
Like I'm
by
fine.
having them like write it down or
like,
testify. Yeah.
If I was sat here and I lost my laptop, like I can tell you like, oh, this is what I was wearing. This is where I left it. Like that's fine.
Right.
But they don't think to be like, oh, maybe like recounting something like that might not be the best way for me to ask.
Right.
To do something, especially if it's a man asking, like even just that, like having a woman maybe the same age in a, not in an office, in a, I don't know, but what I do know is they are trying to improve.
Right. I will say that I have two stories basically. One of my Korean nunas here, was like getting stalked by an ex-boyfriend. He would constantly show up at her house late hours in the night and be like, and drop like a rose or whatever on her car, whatever. And some people are like, oh, that's super romantic. But this went on for like months after she kept like rebuffing him, like, no, like, I don't want to see you anymore, whatever. And it's like, it's not cool if you just coming home late from work at like 11, 12 o'clock and like there's a man, like you gotta watch out, like in your peripheral vision, is there a man in the dark corner with a rose? Like, what the hell? And eventually she like called the police, and the police was like, okay, we got this. They actually called him up and they were like, hey, what you're doing is actually considered stalking. So if we get another report like this is going to be like, you're going to get in trouble, basically. So that was something new that I had never heard of ever happening before, ever. And looking into it, apparently there were these new laws set in place. Specifically, I think stalking laws or harassment laws.
Yeah, within the last couple of years.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I found out through Bashi on TikTok. It's this guy.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. I forget where he's from. He's from America.
Yeah.
And he's living in Korea, and he does a lot of political work and like, you know, trying to like rally the troops and everything like that. He also gives really good information on like Korean law, and one of
your rights.
Yeah. And one of the videos was like, yeah, there's these new laws set in place to help police. Like there are these like new policies, new laws that help police tell, or what's the word? Not criminalize. What's the word I want to say? Just like convict people of like, hey, this is stalking. Hey, this is harassment. Don't do this, or like you can actually get in trouble.
Yeah.
So like you said, they are like slowly developing things, new methods to deal with this issue.
Right.
Which is good to hear, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that Korea has come such a long way. People only, I think, like in the 80s got the rights to passports. Like
in the 80s, I'm not sure about that.
I believe so. I might have to fact check that one. But
yeah, people like forget that Korea is still a relatively young country.
Yeah. In terms of what we know of it now. I mean, if you look at like 50 years ago, what Gangnam looked like, it's rice fields, basically.
Right.
And I think because of all this like technology and innovation, we forget that a lot of the laws are still have like stayed behind.
Right.
And like, for example, the whole like viewpoint of DV, SA, and just in general like crimes against women and stalking. Yeah. Thank God that has now caught up, especially with like the whole cyber stalking and the issues with spy cameras.
Oh man, is that still a thing? I'm not sure if that's still a thing.
I don't know. I stopped caring about it a long time.
It was such like an embarrassing thing to talk about.
To be known about.
Yeah, to be known about. It's like, oh yeah, we like seeing women pee in public toilets. Like, no, we don't. Who's we? No, that's not true at all. But yeah, it was such a big shame on like the Korean image. I'm like, no, we don't care.
It got to a point where I had so many UTIs where I was like, I don't care anymore if someone gets off to me peeing. I'm using the public restroom. And now it's very freeing. It's very freeing to be like, if I'm on a live stream right now, that's fine. You're the weird one here. I'm just doing something natural.
Sure.
And preventing a UTI.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's like, I think there's task forces that patrol public toilets to check for hidden spy cameras.
Like black lights or whatever to see if there's like sensors around.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But
I know it was also the spy cameras in hotels or Airbnbs as well. That was also a big thing. I've made memes about those. Yeah, absolutely. That I don't know if that's like prevalent anymore.
I don't know. One of my friends, Metap, she just did a TikTok where, you know how like people love to pick up trash from the street? Like you'll throw out like furniture and then people will literally take it home with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So she saw a mirror that someone was throwing out and she took it and she like made a TikTok about it and people were like, golly, careful that there's not like a hidden camera in there. And that was like the whole point of
Interesting.
this. And I'm just like, yeah, right?
That's like so smart.
Right,
like,
right.
They're getting so creative with it.
Right? If I was a pervert, I would do that.
Oh my God.
So then she like moved the mirror from her bedroom that was like facing her bed to like the outs, like into her living room. And I was like, yeah, I would also be kind of scared. So now she's like, either it's haunted or it has a spy camera. She's like worried about
That's really
either.
funny.
So she's like throwing salt at it. And
That's so funny.
yeah.
Oh my God. I never thought of it that way. Ah, interesting. Okay.
The more you know.
The more you know, I guess. Yeah, because like most students, I guess, they would be living in like one-room apartments. So if you place like a mirror anywhere, you basically get the whole view, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. For a while, I thought that maybe there was a hidden camera in my apartment because it was so cheap. And I was like, oh.
Man.
Yeah. And there was a man living in here before me. And I was like, wouldn't that be crazy?
It's not something that I hear about these days, but it was definitely something that people were worried about, like genuinely worried about, and you should be. But yeah, I don't hear that stuff anymore. So I'm hoping that we're not perverts in that way anymore.
We've moved past it.
Yeah, they've moved on to some other stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah. Or maybe they're just on Tinder. This is something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while now.
Korean Tinder.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Sam?
What are my thoughts? I mean, we did talk about this a little bit before the show, but one of the hot takes that I have, which I've thought about a little bit more since that conversation. I'm like, I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like if Korean guys were good enough to date, to begin with, they wouldn't be on Korean Tinder.
What if they specifically want to meet a foreign girl?
I would say that's in itself is super weird to just like want to specifically find a foreign girl to date. I think it's just like, isn't that weird for you? Like if you're like, oh, I'm looking for a foreign girl, like,
I mean,
that would set off like alarm bells in my head.
That's the whole reason why I have not like dated in Korea or like have decided it isn't for me. But from my experience, usually when a Korean man specifically wants a foreign girl, it's because they don't want to put in the effort of what it takes to be with a Korean girl, because you have to remember how many days have you been dating.
There are definitely a lot different expectations when you're dating a foreign girl.
Whereas I would be like, what? Or like in Korean dating culture, like you have to be texting all the time.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like Western women, I don't know, like we're not all the same, so it very much depends. But like for me, for example, I don't want to be texting you like every waking second of my day.
It's very much like, did you wake up? Oh, did you have breakfast?
What did you eat?
Are you on your way to work? Oh, did you get on the bus? Are you at work? What'd you have to eat?
It's fine to check in, but I feel like it gets to a point where you're just texting for the sake of texting.
Right.
And I would rather, I also just like having time for myself. And then when you get a message being like, do you not like me anymore because I didn't text you for 20 minutes, for me is just...
Damn.
Like I said, one of the many reasons, like just the cultural differences.
Right.
I would just be setting myself up for a failed relationship or a lot of failed relationships, because I know that I don't really want to compromise on certain things.
Okay.
Which is fine for me to do, because obviously I'm not out here like trying, because the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over again and still being surprised that it's not working.
Right.
So
you would not advise people to go on Tinder here in Korea if you're looking for like a Korean boyfriend or whatever?
No comment.
Oh, okay.
You know what? I know a lot of people who met like the now husbands on Tinder.
I've never met anybody like that.
But the thing is, they're the exception, not the rule.
Okay.
So yeah, you could find someone. You'll find someone. Maybe not the one, but you'll find someone on Tinder. There's a lot of guys you have to weed through though, so it really depends on whether you want to be bothered or not. So
yeah, going back to what I said earlier, like if they were dateable, then they would have been dating somebody already. And the reason that is because Korean society is it's so tight knit. The communities are so tight knit. I know people who are still tight with people with their friends from high school
Wow.
or friends from middle school, and that's like pretty unheard of in like Western society, right?
Right.
And so they already have friends. They go to work. They've been to college here. They've been to university and graduate school, and they go to work and they have families and they go to church or whatever. There's gonna be somebody that you're going to meet in the real life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're on Tinder, it's like, okay, you're just looking for hookups,
Yeah.
or there's something wrong with you. Like I know I don't have any like scientific facts. I have no like statistics in black and white.
Yeah.
But I know in my heart of hearts that this is like,
You know, in your Korean heart, Tinder is wrong.
It's wrong. I cannot sanction it. It's not something that I would ever advise people to do. I'm never gonna be like, oh hey, you want a boyfriend? Download the apps. There's no way I would ever say that. And I'm constantly like vindicated every time. Every time I hear my friends talk about their dates on Tinder or whatever. I met this guy on Tinder. I met this guy on what's the Korean app that I was thinking of? There was a very popular
Coffee and bagel?
No. It's specifically a Korean one. But my Korean friend met quite a few guys through those apps, and like all of them were like somehow worse than before.
Really?
It was like there was this dude who like picked his nose in bed and just like wiped it on the blankets, and she would wake up to that.
Oh,
and I'm like, what are you doing? There was like these other dudes who were like trying to get her pregnant or come home drunk and like would only stay at her place because they're trying to fuck. And I'm like, dude, like why do you still meet people through these things? And she's like, cause
I feel like there's less accountability, because usually in Korea,
Absolutely.
you set people up with each other. So
absolutely, yeah.
it's a friend of a friend.
Right.
So there's some kind of accountability.
You've
something,
been vetted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and even then, like, even if a guy wants to pick his nose and wipe it, he'll be like, oh my god, no, she'll tell my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So
She told me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't do that shit. That's so gross.
Which I think also ties in with why some guys go specifically for foreign girls, because we don't have that network of like, I'm not likely to know some guys' friends.
Right.
We're not gonna have like the same friendship group, so
Right.
his bad behavior is not gonna get out outside of like my
it'll
immediate
be
friendship.
like insulated. Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure. And yeah, it goes back to accountability, like you said, when people are dating people within their circles, then yeah, obviously it's going to come back to bite whoever introduced you to that partner.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to act with integrity. You got to be careful, and you just don't have that when you date, when you're on these apps, right? And going back to what you said about like how Korean guys don't want to deal with the dating tropes of like, oh, you got to text me, you got to know all these anniversaries. I think a lot of Korean people are dating like foreigners because they want to also give like excuses of like, oh, I didn't know that like girls don't like to be touched there. I thought foreign girls like to be touched there, or stuff like that.
I feel like some guys genuinely believe that though.
Yeah.
Like genuinely believe like that foreign women are so different.
Oh,
like,
really?
Different creatures. Like they want to do it all the time.
I don't think so. I think that they're just feigning ignorance. That like, oh yeah, like, because they can just play the dumb card. Right? What was that word? That was weaponized incompetence or something like that, right?
Yeah,
it's something similar to that of like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't know that you guys celebrate anniversaries. Like, what? Of course you knew that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, was I supposed to do something special for your birthday? I didn't know that.
Right.
Like, dude, like.
But it'll be something like, for example, you know how like in Korea, it's not as frowned upon for like someone to say like, oh, you've kind of gained weight.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
we have like no filter for that stuff.
Right, exactly. So I've seen situations with like Korean guys with their foreign spouses, and the Korean guy would be like, yeah, you've gained weight.
Right.
And the girl was just like, what the hell? Like, that's so not okay. And the guy's just like, I had no idea. Like they genuinely think that it's okay to
Right.
say something like that.
Yeah, and girls say that to me as well. My Korean girlfriends have been like, "Oh, you shouldn't wear that," or
Really?
oh yeah, I had a girlfriend. I wore contacts before I got LASIK done, and I always had my contacts in when I was meeting her, and I came home one day and I sent her like a selfie of me with my glasses on, and she's like, "Oh, you wear glasses?" I was like, whoa, okay.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, it's just ingrained in our culture. It's not specifically a guy thing. It's just a Korean thing in general.
Right.
Yeah. That didn't feel good. And so I got LASIK after that.
Because of that?
Not because
okay.
of that, but yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Some trauma right there.
But yeah, no, like dating. So you've never dated like any Korean guy before?
I've been on a date with
Okay.
a Korean man,
Okay.
and that also helped me decide that it just
It was not for you.
No, it was honestly it was like a chain reaction of just different things. Like even like back in the day when I used to be on Tinder, whenever I would match with Korean men, I couldn't get through even just 1 5-minute conversation without them saying something stupid like,
Oh,
"Do
really?
you live are you open-minded?
Are you open-minded? Do you live alone?
Yes. Have you ever been with a Korean guy? What else? Like different things like that. Or like if we would speak in Korean, he would speak in Panmal. And it's like, do you think I can already see from this very limited interaction who you are, who you think I am. No thanks.
Right.
So
I think it is pretty weird when people like already speak Panmal to you. Like,
especially when I'm older.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
That doesn't make any
yeah.
sense then.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Exactly.
Were
Like
you yeah.
I remember like specifically like one of the last Korean men I tried to like message with on Tinder was like some guy speaking immediately in Panmal, and I was like, Panmal? And he's like, oh, sorry Nuna, sorry, I didn't mean it.
Oh man.
So yeah, I could see like, okay, he's looking for someone who doesn't know the ins and outs of
Yeah. It's not, especially if you know that they're older or whatever.
I mean, it says our ages in our profile.
Yeah, so just already speaking Panmal from the get-go is not a good look. I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it's not a good look for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I'm pretty sure he also asked if I lived alone. So
oh man. Okay, yeah, that's a total red flag.
Yeah.
For sure. So it just took the one guy to be like, I'm okay. No thank you.
I mean, it was a couple of tries. Like,
Okay.
it was so long ago.
Okay,
But the one in-person date. No,
just disgust. Just
it went well until it didn't, and then I found out he had like a 4-year relationship.
oh my god!
and-
Wait, like you were the side girl?
Yeah, and then it was like during the date I even tested him, and I was like, "Would you like to come into my house and drink some water?" He's like, "No." He was so respectful.
Oh, interesting.
He never
was
tried
playing
anything.
the long game.
I think he
Wow.
was. And then just to find out, like, yeah, 4-year relationship. Funnily enough, he like a couple months ago, like we haven't spoken in absolute years. I want to say like 4 years.
Okay.
He sent me a cake
Okay.
very recently, an
Okay.
ice cream cake.
Okay. Not to your
And
house, but like on the like messaging
So
app or
on
whatever.
on
Kakao,
Kakao,
you can just
so I'm very scared about being stalked.
right.
So I'm like, my heart is racing. I'm in fight or flight. Well, actually, first I get a message, and it's like, "Hey Annie, happy birthday!" And I'm like, "Happy birthday! My birthday was like 3 months ago. You're very late."
That's a very that's a strategy.
Oh my
That's
god,
a strategy of ours.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I fell for it because I was
Oh,
like,
no.
I was like, who is this? Because I replied because he had changed his name, and I forgot that I didn't like delete or block him.
Oh.
And he had changed his name, and I was like, who is this? I think you got the wrong person. And he had sent me like basically a coupon for
Yeah.
a giant Haagen-Dazs ice cream cake, and I was like, these are kind of expensive.
Hell yeah.
And you just sent it to the wrong person. And on Kakao especially, like sometimes you'll be out and you'll just give out your Kakao, and then years later you'll
Oh,
forget
sure.
who it was. So I was like, I don't know who this is. And in the end he's like, oh, it's me. And I was like, oh, it's you. And then I just told him, like, I'm married, never speak to me again. So he never speaks to me again because I don't want to. And then my friends were trying to convince me, like, just eat the cake, like, order the cake, because the voucher was basically like, it's a great way for you to give gifts to other people.
Yeah.
So they don't know your address.
Right.
And you use the voucher and like your address stays private. But I'm like, I don't want him to know that I still like redeemed the voucher. Like,
yeah, we can check those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I was like, I don't want it. And in the end, like, I think if you don't redeem it within a time limit, it goes back to them.
Yeah, you
I was
get a
like,
refund or whatever.
I don't want him to know that I enjoyed his ice cream.
Ice cream. Interesting. Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, not even just dating, but like you mentioned earlier, I was the only straight Korean guy that you're friends with, and I'm like, that's really sad.
Yeah, that hasn't said anything weird. Like, there was this one time, again, years ago, because I stopped trying, to be honest, and I genuinely don't go out of my way to interact with men, to be friends with men. You're the only one who has stood the test of time, but there's this one guy that I met, and I love to connect with different influencers because we are such a tight-knit community, but we connected on Instagram. We had spoken like briefly at an event, and randomly, like, the next day he messages me, and his English wasn't that good, and he asked me like, can I ask you a question? Like, why do some foreign girls like calling their boyfriends daddy? And I was like, and then I was like, okay, he doesn't know.
Oh, he knows.
He doesn't know.
100%
I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Wait,
I should.
how old was he? Was he like in his like
20s, mid-20s,
mid-20s?
Yeah.
I can understand if you're like 18, 19.
I feel like daddy is a very Western aspect, especially if you're Korean, you know?
I don't know.
I don't know. Do Koreans know about daddy and all that?
I feel like if you're in your mid-20s, yeah, you do.
Really?
Know.
Wow.
I would
don't
say
know.
so.
So I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, I think it's like a thing in bed, ha ha ha. Thinking that, he'll now realize how inappropriate that question is. And he goes, I see. Do you do it?
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, man.
The way I blocked this man so fast.
Yeah.
No. Why? Like, we met in a professional setting. I
really?
didn't give you any vibes. Why? Speaking of professional, like, this is why I go out of my way not to interact with men. I've been in, like, 회식s, which is like a business dinner.
Meetings, yeah.
Yeah. That I was supposed to, like, basically help promote a certain business. So I went to their business dinner, and it was my friend who introduced them. So, like, you know, I was helping my friend out too. And this, like, old man, Samchon, like, Korean, like, in your mind, just think of the most stereotypical Korean uncle archetype.
Right.
That's what he looked like.
Okay.
He leans over to me, and he's like, I'll teach you Korean, but you have to call me oppa.
Oh, no.
And at this point, like, other people were listening. So we had an audience. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny. And if you don't know, oppa is like, I don't even know anymore if it's
a term of endearment. It's a
if
term
you're around the same age, not old enough to be my father.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like now it's kind of been sexualized a little bit.
It's always been sexualized.
Well. So yeah, he was basically, in a sense, he was saying, like, call me daddy.
Pretty much.
A way.
Pretty much.
So, like, in front of people in a professional setting, and I'm like, ha ha, you're so funny.
How did he say it though? Was it like call me oppa, or like was it like call me oppa?
Honestly, I try not to remember. It was
okay. I'm the police officer being like, how did he say? How did he call you?
You're re-traumatizing me. And then he's like, so where do you live? Like, and I tell him, like, the general area. He's like, okay, like, if you ever want to drink, just call me and we'll go drink together.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I can think of 1,000 other things than drinking with someone's uncle.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is all happening in front of other workers. No one's saying anything. In fact, some some of the men are encouraging it, being like, oh, you guys should like exchange cacaos, like blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this man has a wife. You're like in your 50s. What do you mean? Like, and I never gave off any vibes. Not that I should have to specify, but obviously I'm not giving off vibes to the old man that I'm interested in him.
Yeah, I was at a language exchange, and
that's a trigger word.
Yeah, I was at a language exchange, and we were like bar hopping or whatever, and it was hosted by this Korean guy, and he was like in his, I would say like maybe late 30s, early 40s, and we were playing this drinking game, and if there's something called 뭐지? It was called 흑기사. 흑기사 means black knight, which means that if you don't want to drink, then I can play the role of 흑기사. I can save you from drinking this drink. I'll take the alcohol instead. So this one girl across from me was like, oh, I can't drink anymore. And so the host was like, oh, I'll drink it for you. I'll be your 흑기사. I'll be your black knight. Yeah. So he takes the drink and he drinks it for her and goes, okay, now you got to give me a kiss. And everybody in the room was like dead, just like 1,000-yard stare of like, no, that did not just happen. Immediately turned off the entire event. Like the whole atmosphere was dead. And we were like, oh, well, we all collectively thought the same thing of like, we gotta get out of here.
Can we start shaming men who hit on like significantly younger girls?
Oh, dude, she was so young too. She was like younger than me at the time. She was probably a college student for sure. Oh my God. Like it was really bad.
Oh.
Yeah. So
did she do it?
No. We all, I think, like me and some other like Korean guy was like, nah, you don't have to do that.
You're so funny.
Yeah. Like, don't.
The only thing you can do in that situation is be like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it's like
brush it off.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let me double check if this is don't.
Yeah, that's fine. So this is something that I really like to ask my friends, or even people that I just met. What is your?
Which one am I?
What?
We just met outside in the street.
We've known each other for like 6 years, and I think I've only met you like 5 times.
That's true.
Like
actually, if you put it like that.
Yeah. Huh. I would say I think we're cool. You let me into your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're friends.
For now, unless I don't know.
We'll see. Like
unless you say something weird, like
you
call me oppa.
Spend time with me for like 2 months, and then you can decide.
Okay, sounds good.
Because oh man. Anyways. So yeah, this is what I like to ask all my friends. What is your hottest take? It doesn't have to be about Korea, but what is something that can get you canceled?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Again? Cancelled again?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my TikTok is just like every video seems to be like a hot take.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that's a hot take. I'm looking for like something spicy, something like let's get canceled on the first show.
No.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, I was trying to be diplomatic.
Diplomatic.
What's your hot take? And then I'll riff off of that.
Oh, well, I mean, we already talked about one of my hot takes was like most of the guys that you see on dating apps here in Korea, they're not dateable. Like most of them are just not dateable, or they don't see you as like a long-term partner.
Yeah.
I think that is something you need to, something that you might need to earn, I guess. Earn is a really wrong way to put it, but you can't just like expect to come to Korea and go on Tinder and then, I have a healthy relationship with a Korean guy here.
You'll have a relationship.
You'll have a relationship. But like obviously you need to learn language. You gotta like establish yourself inside of this society. Like don't just go to work and then go to the club and then like expect to have
club.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So it's just like
I don't think you got the reference.
No, I didn't.
No.
I thank you for calling me out on it. I was like, I'm gonna try smoothly get out of this the best way I can. But I'm sure people ask you as well, like, how do I actually get like a Korean boyfriend? And it's like, you got to put in the work. You got to actually have like a personality and not just go to the club all the time. You need to speak the language if you want to have somebody that you want to communicate with. And a lot of people don't like that answer. They're like, no, I'm just going to go to the club and see what I can find. I'm like, okay, You do you.
Well, there's that. Maybe my hot take is you don't need to speak Korean.
To live in Korea.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is something we can fight about.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Explain yourself.
As long as you can say yes, hello, thank you, you're good to go. Okay? Especially now, like, if I compare it to like 5 years ago.
Right.
To now, I'll go to a cafe and the barista automatically will speak English to me. And
I'm sorry, are we distinguishing between traveling or living?
living.
Oh, okay. Proceed.
Obviously, it makes things so much easier
If you know the language.
Speak Korean. You know, I think as long as like level 2 Korean, if you know any of the levels, it goes up to level 6, which is like political language.
Yeah, I can't even pass level 6.
Really? Okay, so I think level 2 is fine. You're good to go.
I think you open up yourself to being so vulnerable if you can't speak Korean here. Imagine if you're living in Korea long term and like you actually have like a serious medical problem.
Yeah.
And you got to go to the hospital.
They have English speakers though.
But let's say that like you got to go somewhere nearby your vicinity. Are you going to travel all the way out?
You have your phone.
You have your phone. Oh, that's true. There's the translator stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go about it. The best way to go about it.
Like
either.
my Korean isn't good enough for me to like explain medical things. I've never had an issue. And this is just like me speaking. But I've lived here for 5 years. I go to a doctor that's like specifically for foreigners. So the doctor is Korean American.
Okay.
All of the staff speaks English. If I go to a bigger hospital, all big hospitals have a dedicated foreigner center so that when you go there, all of the doctors speak English. So even when I've gone to like smaller clinics, most doctors speak a rudimentary version of English, at least.
But do you feel like you're getting the best care out of it?
I mean, if it's like one of those small, it's like when I'm getting my Botox, I don't need to have like a
right. You don't need to have level 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Level 6 Korean for Botox.
Like here and here, please.
Right.
No wrinkles, please.
Right.
But yeah, there's ways around it. There's so many more. Like even just when I had like an unpaid bill of like 지방세.
Okay.
Like, I don't even know what that is in English, right?
No idea.
Don't know what it's in Korean either, but I needed to pay like some tax thing. And when you call up the tax people, they don't speak Korean, they don't speak English, and even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to like understand any tax terms. So there's a app that you can use where it calls whoever you need to call in a 3-way so that you have an interpreter on the phone, the person that you need to call, and you. And then you have a live interpreter helping you. I've never been in a situation where I've been like, damn.
I think it's just really irresponsible advice to give to people.
It's not advice. I'm not saying it's advisable. I'm just saying if you're someone who's like, oh, I can't come to Korea yet, or I'm scared to come to Korea because I speak 0 Korean, it's okay to start from somewhere. Like I said, obviously, if you are moving towards speaking the language, I mean, even just like immersion is gonna help you learn the language.
Right.
Come here with speaking 0 Korean, you'll be fine.
You can definitely get around and you can survive, but I don't know if I would necessarily say like thrive. I have
thrive and live.
Right. I have another hot take, I guess. I got a little bit in trouble for this one. If you're not planning to be a teacher for life, or if you don't plan to live in Korea long term.
Oh, I saw some stitches on this.
Yeah, don't. If you're an English teacher here and you don't want to be a teacher for life, don't stay here for more than 2 years. I feel like you can get all that you.
Okay, my camera's off. It ran out of battery.
Oh shit. What would you like to do? I can finish this up and then just do it back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then we'll close it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So if you don't want to be a teacher for life, then just spend 2 years in Korea and you'll get the most out of it. You'll get the most out of it because I feel like I've seen this so many times with influencers and even like friends too. They stay here for 5, 6, 7 years and they go back home and they have like they have like nothing to show for it. You're a little different because you're not a teacher here.
No,
Yeah.
but I've been here for 5 years. I think a good way into the country is teaching. Like,
oh, for sure.
There's this girl that I follow on TikTok. Her name is Eliza. She taught, I think, for 2 years, saved up money, and now she's doing language school. And to, you know, bring up her Korean, and that opens up doors for other things.
Right.
So,
but if you are staying here in Korea and you're like not really focusing on like building up your Korean skills, you're just going to work, getting a paycheck, and it's like
that's okay. I feel like this is a very divisive topic between us, but like even just. I don't come to the defense of English teachers very often, but I will say, like, when you are being overworked like that, the last thing you want to do is come home and open up a Korean textbook.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
it's impossible.
When people are like, oh, this person has been an English teacher in Korea for years and years, how do they not speak Korean? It's really difficult. Like, if you don't have like the mental capacity, like you don't want to sit on your weekends, your only time off, and read a Korean book, and that doesn't even do anything for you. You need to like actually be in it, kind of thing.
Right.
So,
but at the same time, coming to a new country was never supposed to be easy. Like, you need to put in work if you want to like elevate yourself. Like, if you want to ever move beyond the space of education, right? Then you need to be able. If you want to work at a company, you need to be able to speak Korean.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't speak Korean, then you're gonna be on a teacher salary, which is like basically a little bit over minimum wage. And that's not good. And I think so the reason why I say this is because I see my friends and other influencers, they go back home and they don't have anything to really show for it. They don't speak Korean. Like, they don't have any experience in the field that they want. Instead, they've just been like kind of drifting along in Korea of like, okay, I'm going to water bomb again, or like.
Are you sure you're not talking about me?
Oh, did you go to water bomb? Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay, my bad. So I don't know. I see that stuff, and I'm like, you got the best experience of Korea in just 2 years. After that, you don't have to be resentful about your time here in Korea anymore. You can just go and you'll be set. Like. Yeah. Oh, I guess we can talk about like why you choose to live here in Korea. Like
even though you've just described why I should go.
Your scenario is a little bit different because you're not an English teacher here. You make content.
I'm
in Korea.
I'm in the entertainment space.
Right.
So I guess it's a little bit different for me.
Your skill set can still be transferred wherever you go.
Thank
you can
God,
go to America.
I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but I had a following like before I even moved to Korea.
I knew Annie before she blew up on TikTok.
But yeah, so I guess I have those transferable skills of when I moved to Korea, I started making Korea content. If I were to move to Japan, I'll make Japanese content. So like Korea isn't this like be all and end all of my entertainment career. And obviously social media in general just really opens up
so many opportunities
doors,
for you.
But so I do feel for English teachers when it comes to like not knowing where you'll be in the next couple of years. Like just me personally, I have certain goals that seem pretty achievable. I make a pretty decent amount of money and I'm very comfortable. And then obviously like the cost of living in comparison to Switzerland, where I'm from, or the UK where I've lived, is a lot lower.
Okay.
So I can have a cleaning lady, which by the way I need to do. I can have a cleaning lady come to me every week if I want to. And it doesn't break the bank. I can head off to dinner and have like bottles and bottles of wine. And it's like under $100, like the whole meal, and we all split it. And obviously the feeling comfortable walking outside in the dark.
For sure. There are a lot of benefits to living here.
Exactly, yeah. For sure. Like Seoul in general is just for me a very fun place. It feels like a giant holiday camp. Like there's always something going on somewhere. you can head off to Seongsu, Hongdae, Itaewon, somewhere something is happening.
Yeah.
And I don't get that back home.
Yeah.
So even though there's a lot of obviously cons, the pros outweigh the things that
The disadvantages.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's because I see some people and I'm like, eventually you're gonna go back home. Like you're not working towards a long-term visa here.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go home eventually. So why not do it quicker? Like,
Well,
I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want. It's your life. I'm not
Yeah.
saying. I'm just saying you would be better off.
From
if
what
you
I'm
listened to me.
hearing, they want to encourage foreigners to marry Koreans. So maybe they'll change things around and make things more comfortable for us
Right.
to birth the new generation.
Oh man. Okay. The way you said that. Birth. Birth.
Well, you know what I would do if I was the Korean government to help with the declining birth rate is just invite a bunch of Nigerian men because they have kids with everyone everywhere. That would really help stave off the decline. Okay,
You're really trying to kill this show on the first episode. That's crazy.
You said you wanted something spicy.
Oh, man.
I say this as a half Nigerian, okay?
Okay.
With multiple people related to me around the world, okay? They love foreign women, especially Yoruba and Igbo men. That would solve. Make a deal with Nigeria. Make a special visa where they come over here and
I
they
saw
will
my
repopulate.
whole career flash before
They will
my eyes.
repopulate
I was like, oh man.
Korea, okay? It'll take care of the racism as well. If everyone is mixed, you can't. You know what? If you're not mixed, then it'll be an issue.
There is no race if we're all mixed.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. On that note, I guess I'm not open-minded enough. Okay. Hey, that's a perfect way to close it out.
There we go.
All right. Yeah. So this is gonna be like a twice a month kind of thing, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flaky, so we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, this is basically what you can expect from our podcast: just shooting the shit, kicking the can, giving hot takes, basically. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh, you want to do your plugs? Where can the people find you?
You can find me at _AnnieNova on TikTok and YouTube. You can find me.
Take two.
You can find me at _AnnieNova on TikTok and Instagram, and just Annie Nova on YouTube.
There you go. And you can find me at soljiki, SOLJIKI on TikTok and Instagram, and you can also find me on YouTube as well. And yeah, I think that'll do it for the show. Thank you so much for inviting me to your space, for trusting me. You're your only straight Korean male friend. And yeah, shooting this silly little podcast thing. This is really cool.
Hope it does well.
I'm glad that we can finally do like a project together.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, awesome. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. All right. Okay.
Woo!
Oh man. How was like your whole, like I'm sure you're super like,
I know, it's fine.
yeah, you good?